On the 6th of January 2020, North London gang members from 3x3 and Wood Green would attempt to murder a rival MPK gang member. The feud goes back years, and regular viewers of the channel will know we've documented various incidents covering all relevant gangs, this incident being extremely similar to the ones that we've seen before. At around 3:30 PM on the 6th of January 2020, a 26-year-old man thought to have been part of MPK was driving down Lansdowne Road when a stolen black Mercedes rammed into the vehicle. The victim then left his vehicle and ran from the crash scene. He was then chased and repeatedly stabbed by the people who had been in that black Mercedes. They were 20-year-old Romario Johnston Dawson, 24-year-old Kari Oram, 19-year-old Sharon Williams, and a 17-year-old boy who can't be named for legal reasons. After landing a number of vicious knife wounds to the victim's back, abdomen, and thighs, all four would run back to the stolen Mercedes and attempt to flee the scene. They tried to force their way through traffic but collided with a number of vehicles, so they got out and fled on foot. Police would follow soon after, and it's believed that the group discarded some items along the way. A large knife and bandana was thrown over a garden fence, which would be later recovered by police and would be subject to forensic testing. The victim, on the other hand, was rushed to hospital, but believe it or not, his injuries were described as non-life-threatening. And it was only the day after he would go on to be discharged from hospital. DNA evidence would link the four to the crime scene though, as the bandana that had been thrown over the garden fence was linked to Sharon, and the knife that was thrown along with items of clothing recovered from the Mercedes was linked to Kari. After the Mercedes was taken by police for forensic testing, officers found 2 more knives and items of clothing which had DNA evidence linking to the 4 gang members. After Romario left his Gucci wallet in the car with his bank card inside, police had been able to connect him to it because, for one, of course, it was his bank card, but for 2, he had been spotted on CCTV earlier on that same day using the card to withdraw cash. On the CCTV, it showed him wearing the exact same clothes that he had worn when he attacked the victim. Over the following days, police would go on to make arrests on all 4. 3 of them would be arrested and charged on suspicion of attempted murder, whilst the 17-year-old would see himself arrested and charged for wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. Kari would go on to get an extra charge of having an article with a blade or point in a public place. They all pled not guilty to the charges that were brought against them, and after a trial, Romario was jailed for 27 years, Kari was jailed for 27 years, Sharon was jailed for 27 years, whilst the 17-year-old was handed a 4-year jail sentence. After the sentences were handed out, DC Cole Latham from the Met Specialist Crime Command said, "This was a violent gang attack that resulted from a, quote, ride out into rival territory. It took place in broad daylight in front of school children and commuters. My team worked tirelessly to gather numerous pieces of evidence and piece together the jigsaw of exactly what occurred that day. This assisted us in presenting a compelling case that demonstrated some of the males involved in the incident are also involved in gang crime in the local area. Acts of violence such as this will not be tolerated and will be investigated robustly. The defendants will have a lot of time to reflect on the purported benefits of being a gang member from their prison cells. I would like to thank all the members of the public that provided small pieces of evidence that ultimately led to the imprisonment of 4 extremely violent males for a substantial period of time and breaking the, quote, wall of silence." And this story just goes to show you how hard the justice system is going against known gang members moving forward, because to be receiving a 27-year jail sentence for an attempted murder is a pretty long time to say the least. A lot of you might agree that the length matches the crime. It's not too often we see such big sentences handed out for these types of charges, but I feel like this might be the court's way of trying to crack down on gang violence, especially in the capital, because there could be some gang members out there that go on to commit these acts of violence and see that a huge sentence isn't normally dished out, so they feel like taking the risk. No pun intended. But with these bigger sentences being handed out now, it might make people think twice before going on to stab people in broad daylight in the streets, just like we've been seeing a lot over these past few years. But drop a like on the video for more crime related content like this, and make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't. It's been me, Ape Huncho, and I'll see you in the next one.